Hey guys, and welcome to Homebrew and Reviews. My name is Grant and I'm here to show you the Fermenter King Junior. Okay, so this is the Fermenter King Junior. It is 20 litres. It is a pressurizable fermenter slash keg, also known as a unitank. So in this guy, you can ferment wort, you can serve as a keg, or you can do both. So you can fill it up with your wort, let it ferment, and then serve it straight out of this. And one of the good things about this is that you can pressure ferment with this. So you can, during the fermentation, you can have your beer ready and carbonated by the time it's finished. And that's a pretty big benefit to have. It saves a lot of time carbonating your beer later on, and it helps you save gas and is all round just so much easier. Okay, so with the Fermenter King Junior, you get this lid, and it has a floating dip tube. Essentially what this ball does is it floats on top of your beer, and as your beer goes, as you start sucking from the top, it goes down, and it will always take from the very top. So it eliminates the risk of getting down into the trub, especially if you're using this as a unitank. So on the top, you've got your liquid line and your gas line and a pressure release valve. There is also another pressure release valve on the keg itself. This here is an emergency pressure relief valve, and what that will do is this little silicon thing will blow out if it gets to a high enough PSI and isn't getting purged by the spunding valve. So speaking of spunding valves, you're going to want to put, if you're fermenting under pressure, you're going to want to put one on the air line here. And what that basically does is it lets excess pressure leave the fermenter as it's being fermented. I believe these are rated up to 35 PSI. So you wouldn't want to get around that sort of area though when you're using it as a pressure fermenter. The most ideal pressure fermentation is around 10 to 20 PSI. So this goes in. And there are O-rings underneath the lid here. I'm not having much luck doing that, but that's okay. There are O-rings around the top. Here's one of them. And that sits in underneath the lid there. They can be a little bit finicky. If you close up the lid a little bit too tight, it can damage the O-rings. You can see here I have damaged the O-ring. Oh, there we go. So you can see around the bottom there how it's all pressed in. So you got to be a bit careful when you put these in. You don't want it too tight, because when I first started using it, I thought I better put that lid on as tight as I can, because there's pressure in there and I don't want any leaks. So yeah, it's a great affordable way to get into pressure fermentation. I believe these go for around $60, these 20-litre versions here, so quite affordable, and they have a lot of uses. Just because you can use it as a keg or a fermenter or both at the same time makes it have a lot of value and use out of it. There are a few little drawbacks to it. This lid opening here is not big enough to get your hand inside, so you're going to have to fill it up with PBW and essentially shake the hell out of it. And you can get a bottle brush inside there, but you'll have a hard time getting down to the bottom. So a good strong PBW and some warm water and a bit of soaking will clean this right up. So another issue, these come with bases to keep them upright, as you can see, and over time, if you're lifting it up out of your keg fridge a lot, it can come off. So it's just held on with these little bits of glue here, and they aren't the strongest things in the world. Not a big deal. You can just, double-sided tape or silicone it back on, but that is just something worth mentioning. Another thing worth mentioning is that with the Fermenter King Junior, being it's only 20 litres, you would have to adjust your batch size down to accommodate if you're using it as a unitank. So you would probably get around 17 to maybe 18 litres tops out of this if you're using it as a unitank, because you're going to need that little bit of headspace for the krausen to form, and you don't want to have a blowout in your spunding valve and ruin your valve. So if you were going to use these as a unitank, you'll have to consider reducing your batch size down to about 18 litres, which should get you to about here, which will leave you a little bit of krausen space. So yeah, a little bit smaller. Another thing is that when you put these in your keg fridge, they are a different size to the corny kegs, the 19 litre corny kegs. So you're not going to fit as many of these in your fridge as you would with your corny kegs. So they are wider, they're a bit fatter, and they aren't as tall. So they will not fit the same. So if you have 4 corny kegs in your keg fridge, you probably only get 2 of these in your keg fridge just because of their different sizes. It's just something worth noting if you're going to go out and buy a few of these for your keg fridge. Just try to do some measurements and try to make sure that you're not going to that you're going to have enough space, because that's the last thing you want, is to not have the space to put it in your keg fridge. So overall, it's a pretty good piece of equipment. It's really cost effective, really easy to use, and is a great way to get into pressure fermentation. So there are some other alternatives to this that cost a little bit more. Say the Fermzilla from Kegland, the conical plastic fermenter with the trub valve. That is the next step up from this, and they both work in the same ways, just different capacities and a few less features than the Fermzilla has. So yeah, that's my take on the Fermenter King Junior. Yeah, let me know how you think about it. Let me know if you've got one and you've used it, and if you've, what you like about it and what you don't. So, because the thing about equipment is there's always going to be some drawbacks. There's always going to be some really good things. So you just got to weigh up what works for you. So yeah, that's my personal review on the Fermenter King Junior. And keep an eye out. I'm going to be putting out some more videos soon about different fermenters, so plastic and stainless steel and keg menters. I'm going to go through those different types of fermentation vessels. I'm going to go through a lot of different equipment and different styles, and even do a brew day eventually too. And so yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you found some use out of it. Drop a comment, like the video if you found it useful, and yeah, take care.